Welcome, space traveler. Tonight, we'll keep it simple and bold. We're going to answer one clear question. What happens if Earth detects a real signal from intelligent life? So, dim the lights, take a pillow, get comfortable, breathe in, and breathe out. Before we drift off, tell me in the comments, do you believe we're alone in the universe? Or are we just one of many? And let me know what time it is where you are. I read every comment in the morning, always with a coffee in hand. Here is our promise tonight. We'll walk through a quiet story set in the near future. The year is 2030. A strange radio whisper appears. The world listens. Scientists follow a plan, drawn up long ago, 8 careful steps. No panic, no shouting, just process, people, and patience. And yes, there's light humor along the way. A space mailman or two. A gentle smile when the universe gets weird. This protocol I'm about to tell you about is real. It's called the CD Post-Detection Protocol, and it has 8 steps. If you start to drift off to sleep, that's perfect. Just let the story carry you. If you stay awake, you'll walk away with a clear map of what happens after first contact. Now, take one more deep breath, and let's begin. First, a quick reminder. Earth has already said hello. We've sent postcards into the dark. In 1977, the Voyager probes carried a golden record with music, images, and a map to our home. In 1974, the Arecibo telescope beamed a tight radio message toward a distant star cluster. And today, projects under the SETI umbrella keep listening with big dishes, searching for patterns that nature doesn't make by accident. So far, no reply. That's okay. The sky is huge. The mailbox is slow. Now our calm what if. The year is 2030. In Berkeley, California, a graduate student named Maya Carter is reviewing fresh data from the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia, part of a SETI survey night. In the noise, she spots a thin radio whisper right near the hydrogen line. It blinks in prime steps, 2, 3, 5, 7. She pings her advisor, Dr. Hayes. Cross-checks begin. A very large array in New Mexico picks up the same pattern. The Allen Telescope Array in Northern California confirms it repeats. Carefully, the news climbs from lab rooms to agencies, to the International Astronomical Union, and then to the United Nations. Somewhere in there, the very calm space mailroom. Yes, it's just a quiet office drafts, the official circular, complete with boring file names and world-changing content. No flying saucers, no citywide blackouts, just people doing their jobs. Scientists verify. Data is shared. Governments reserve key radio bands. Journalists explain. Memes bloom. Most of us still go to work on Monday, but the world feels just one click different. That's our frame. We'll walk through what happens next using the real post-detection. Playbook 8 careful steps many groups have agreed on for decades. It isn't dramatic, it's human. Check first. Share widely. Speak clearly. Study deeply. Decide slowly. If you start to drift off, that's fine, let the story carry you. If you stay awake, you'll leave with a clear map of how Earth would react to a confirmed signal. January 4th, 2030. Berkeley is still sleepy. Maya Carter is not. She has a clean notebook, a bigger mug, and a short list with one job at the top. Call the referees. In this world, Step 2 means you invite people whose entire personality is no. Careful people, boring on purpose. The kind who love red pens and hate headlines. You need them. First call, the SETI team in Mountain View. A calm voice picks up. Send everything, the voice says. Raw voltages, pointing logs, your drift fit, your bug list. No plots without context. No tweets. Understood, Maya says, already zipping files. Second call. A coordinator at the International Astronomical Union. The office is small, the carpet is old, and the clerk really does care about commas. We call it the space mailroom because it makes history with printers. They open a quiet ticket with a dull name and ask for a short, plain report anyone can follow. Where to point, when to listen, what not to assume. Third call. Observatories that didn't touch Step 1 meerkat in South Africa, Muriang. The Parkes dish in Australia, a small European array that lives for narrow-band tricks. Each gets the same note. Please observe this patch on and off at these times. Record polarization. Try a blind analysis first. Do not read our labels. Let your pipeline speak. Now, the house rules. Everyone signs the boring pledge that keeps science from burning down on day 1. No press until independent checks finish. No heroic quotes. If you find a problem, you publish the problem as loudly as the candidate. Then the lab turns inward for harsh tests that never make it to movies. They check the frequency standard. The hydrogen maser in the rack hums like a cat. If the clock drifts, the tone drifts with it. The clock is good. They toggle the calibration noise source. On, off. If the signal moves when the noise moves, it's probably inside the box. The signal doesn't care. It stays where the sky says it should be. They rotate the feed. If the tone is a weird reflection off metal nearby, polarization will misbehave. The twist matches the geometry you'd expect from a clean source. Not perfect proof, but good taste. They schedule naughty scans. Point at the parking lot. Point at the freeway. Point at an empty patch of sky. The whisper only shows up where the stars live. Maya adds a tiny trap she once learned from a cranky mentor. She asks a partner telescope to listen, while her dish pretends to listen. Barkley points away on purpose at the wrong spot. The partner doesn't know this and reports a detection only when the real target is up, not when Barkley fakes it. Good. No echo chamber. By the end of the day, replies start to land. South Africa. Weak but present. Same drift. Same prime count. Australia. Present when the source is high, gone when it's low. Europe. Present, narrow band. A hair wider than a perfect spike like an honest transmitter with real hardware. A quick pause here for anyone half asleep. This is the heart of Step 2. You move from we see it to they see it without our help. You let distance remove your bias. Different continents, different weather, different machines, same whisper. With the sky agreeing, the people part begins. The IAJU clerk asks for a draft circular. It's a template the community has used for decades. Title, coordinates, dates, instruments, Simple tests. How to reproduce known caveats. Maya and Dr. Hayes keep it dry, no adjectives, no poetry. If you read it out loud, you'd yawn. Perfect. The SETI team opens a private channel with a small working group. Radio folks, signal processing folks, a couple of grumpy veterans who have broken 100 claims and will break more. Someone adds a gentle line at the top of the chat. Please assume error until error dies in the light. Late that night, Parks uploads a long waterfall, plot hours of listening. The tone is there. On target, it counts primes. Off target, it doesn't. Every so often it hiccups for a second, like the sender blinks. That blink repeats across sites with the same timing offset you'd expect from geography. That's the kind of dull, beautiful detail referees love. A tiny bit of humor creeps in. The IAU clerk sends a message. Draft received, commas fixed. Space Mailman will deliver to the list at 9 o'clock Universal Time. Maya smiles. Somewhere, a gray printer is stretching. Why does step 2 exist? Because excitement is expensive. It spends trust. The only way to afford it later is to be cheap with it now. You bring in independent eyes. You repeat with new machines. You invite people who don't care how good your YouTube thumbnail would look. If the candidate survives that, it deserves step 3. Back in Berkeley, the building is quiet. The lab lights are low. A final note lands from South Africa. Seeing the same structure on polarization channel 2, not an artifact we know. Will continue tomorrow. No exclamation marks, just craft. Maya writes a one-line summary on the board for the morning crew. Multiple sites, repeatable, not local. Proceed to document and secure. The door to step 3 opens. No panic, no shouting, just process, people, and patience. January 4th, 2030. Barclay is still sleepy. Maya Carter is not. She has a clean notebook, a bigger mug, and a short list with one job at the top. Call the referees. In this world, step 2 means you invite people whose entire personality is no. Careful people. Boring on purpose. The kind who love red pens and hate headlines. You need them. First call. The SETI team in Mountain View. A calm voice picks up. Send everything, the voice says. Raw voltages. Pointing logs. Your drift fit. Your bug list. No plots without context. No tweets. Understood, Maya says, already zipping files. Second call. A coordinator at the International Astronomical Union. The office is small, the carpet is old, and the clerk really does care about commas. We call it the space mail room because it makes history with printers. They open a quiet ticket with a dull name. They ask for a short plain report anyone can follow. Where to point. When to listen. What not to assume. Third call. Observatories that did not touch step 1. Meerkat in South Africa. Muriang, the Parkes dish in Australia. A small European array that lives for narrow band tricks. Each gets the same note. Please observe this patch, on and off at these times. Please record polarization. Please try a blind analysis first. Do not read our labels. Let your pipeline speak. Now the house rules. Everyone signs the boring pledge that keeps science from burning down on day one. No press until independent checks finish. No heroic quotes. If you find a problem, you publish the problem as loudly as the candidate. Then the lab turns inward for harsh tests that never make it to movies. They check the frequency standard. The hydrogen maser in the rack hums like a cat. If the clock drifts, the tone drifts with it. The clock is good. They toggle the calibration noise source on, off. If the signal moves when the noise moves, it is probably inside the box. The signal does not care. It stays where the sky says it should be. They rotate the feed. If the tone is a weird reflection off metal nearby, polarization will misbehave. The twist matches the geometry you expect from a clean source. Not perfect proof, good taste. They schedule naughty scans. Point at the parking lot. Point at the freeway. Point at an empty patch of sky. The whisper only shows up where the stars live. Maya adds a tiny trap she once learned from a cranky mentor. She asks a partnered telescope to listen while her dish pretends to listen. Barkley points away on purpose at the wrong spot. The partner does not know this. It reports a detection only when the real target is up, not when Barkley fakes it. Good. No echo chamber. By the end of the day, replies start to land. South Africa. Weak but present. Same drift. Same prime count. Australia. Present when the source is high. Gone when it is low. Europe. Present, narrow band. A hair wider than a perfect spike. Like an honest transmitter with real hardware. A quick pause here for anyone half asleep. This is the heart of step 2. You move from we see it to they see it without our help. You let distance remove your bias. Different continents, different weather, different machines, same whisper. With the sky agreeing, the people part begins. The IAU clerk asks for a draft circular. It is a template the community has used for decades. Title, coordinates, dates, instruments, simple tests, how to reproduce, known caveats. Maya and Dr. Hayes keep it dry. No adjectives, no poetry. If you read it out loud, you would yawn. Perfect. The SETI team opens a private channel with a small working group. Radio folks, signal processing folks. A couple of grumpy veterans who have broken 100 claims and will break more. Someone adds a gentle line at the top of the chat. Please assume error until error dies in the light. Late that night, Parks uploads a long waterfall plot. Hours of listening. The tone is there. On target, it counts primes. Off target, it does not. Every so often it hiccups for a second, like the sender blinks. That blink repeats across sites with the same timing offset you would expect from geography. That is the kind of dull, beautiful detail referees love. A tiny bit of humor creeps in. The IAU clerk sends a message. Draft received. Commas fixed. Space mailman will deliver to the list at 0900 Universal Time. Maya smiles. Somewhere, a gray printer is stretching. Let us step out of the room for a soft minute. Why does step 2 exist? Because excitement is expensive. It spends trust. The only way to afford it later is to be cheap with it now. You bring in independent eyes. You repeat with new machines. You invite people who do not care how good your YouTube thumbnail would look. If the candidate survives that, it deserves step 3. Back in Berkeley, the building is quiet. The lab lights are low. A final note lands from South Africa. Seeing the same structure on Polarization Channel 2, not an artifact we know. We'll continue tomorrow. No exclamation marks, just craft. Maya writes a one-line summary on the board for the morning crew. Multiple sites, repeatable, not local. Proceed to document and secure. The door to step 3 opens. No panic, no shouting. Just process, people, and patience. January 5th, 2030. Before sunrise, Berkeley is blue and quiet. The lab is not. On the whiteboard, 4 words from last night. Multiple sites. Repeatable. Not local. Proceed. Step 3 sounds boring on purpose. Document and secure. It's also where history stops being a rumor and becomes a record. Maya powers up the label maker. Dr. Hayes opens a clean project folder with a name only a librarian could love. Candidate _20HU 1_prime_count_V 1.0. They start a ritual older than headlines. First, freeze the moment. Raw voltages from the dish. Cop it in full, bit for bit, to 2 drives at once. Each file gets a checksum, those little digital fingerprints that tell you if a single bit flips while you're not looking. 1 set goes to a locked cabinet in the basement. 1 set goes into a padded case that a grad student will hand carry to off-site storage after breakfast. Locks, signatures, dates. Dull, perfect. Second, write what happened, not what you hope happened. They draft a plain observation log, listing times, weather, receiver settings, where the dish pointed, when it didn't, and most importantly, who touched which knob and why. Maya includes the silly parts on purpose. 1412. Coffee spilled, no gear affected. 1415. Resume scan. Future you will thank past you for the honesty. Third, build the reproduction kit. Coordinates in 3 formats. A simple ephemeris, when the source is up for different observatories. Expected Doppler drift if the sender is on a planet, on a ship, or on nothing at all. Local oscillator offsets. Polarization notes. A 1-page how to listen like we did that any night operator can follow without calling their boss. Fourth, lock down the path from telescope to plot. They export the exact code that turned raw noise into a plot. No mystery sliders, no secret filters. Outside, the sky brightens. Inside, the label maker sings. A message pings from South Africa, mirroring your raw set here. Checksums match. Another chime from Australia, packaging our independent logs. No anomalies. It feels like a chorus warming up quiet, careful, in tune. Now the part that YouTube never shows. Paper. Yes, real paper. The IAU clerk our favorite space mailman emails, A template for the circular. Title line. Coordinates, instruments, independent confirmations, known caveats, how to reproduce, who to contact for raw. No adjectives, no metaphors, just facts. They draft it together. We report a narrow band signal detected near the 1420 megahertz hydrogen line. The signal exhibits a prime number modulation pattern up to approximately 2000. Independent detections from Parkes and Meerkat confirm presence on source, absence off source. RFI surveys negative to current limits. Further checks ongoing. At the bottom, a line you only earn by being boring for hours. All underlying data and code archived, checksummed, mirrored at 3 sites. Contact list attached. Dr. Hayes prints 3 copies, stamps the corner with a red DRAFT, and slides them into gray binders next to other gray binders. In 100 years, if someone cares, they'll be able to follow the breadcrumbs. Why lockboxes, mirrors, and checklists? Because memory is soft. Files drift. People misremember. Step 3 exists so that, months from now, when excitement fades and critics wake up, the record can stand on its own. Lots of copies keep stuff safe, the archivists say. It's not poetry. It's policy. Back in Berkeley, the team adds 2 quiet defenses against 2 loud problems. Defense 1, spoofing. Could a prankster on a hill be beaming crimes at the dish? They cross-check with mobile spectrum monitors near the site. Nothing local spikes when the signal arrives. They ask Parkes to stare while Berkeley points intentionally at empty sky again. Parkes still sees it. Berkeley doesn't. A nearby joker can't hit 2 continents at once. Defense 2. Accidental self-goal. Could the lab be tricking itself with a calibration tone gone wild? They cycle every noise source, every cable, every internal test signal, according to a random schedule the observers don't see. The whisper keeps time with the sky, not the lab. Maya assembles a small chain of custody sheet for the drives, signatures, timestamps where each copy sleeps. It looks like overkill until the day someone asks, "Who had this between Tuesday and Thursday?" The sheet will answer. The story won't change. At Tena Ma, a courier arrives, blue jacket, barcode scanner, the opposite of drama. He picks up the offside case and hands over a receipt with a shrug that says, "I deliver packages, not destinies." Good. That's exactly who you want carrying your past into the future. The SETI working group opens a private mirror for the raw data. Access is logged. A short line appears at the top of the page. Please do not leak. Please do replicate. It's amazing how often those 2 requests are enough. By afternoon, the circular is cleaned up, commas fixed, acronyms expanded, a phone number removed because someone remembered sleep exists. The clerk writes, "Queued for distribution at 19 o'clock UT." In a quiet corner of Europe, a printer yawns and loads another tray. Maya takes a breath. She adds a last, plain paragraph to the lab log. Datasets, frozen, mirrored, checksummed. Methods, archived, versioned, shared with review group. Risks: spoofing unlikely. Local RFI checks continue. Next, notify global community formally. Brief national partners. Prepare public language. She looks up at Dr. Hayes. Are we ready for step 4? He nods. We are ready to tell the adults. A small smile. UN time? UN time. One more sleepy note for anyone listening in bed. Step 3 is the hinge. Before it, you have a rumor with nice plots. After it, you have a record that can be trusted, broken, or built upon. Whatever happens next, celebration or correction, will rest on this quiet, careful day. Lights dim, drives hum, printers purr. The clock rolls toward 19 o'clock UT, when the space mailroom will speak for the first time. No panic, no shouting, just process, people, and patience. 19 o'clock UT. Somewhere in Europe, a quiet printer finishes its job. The IIU circular goes out. It's not dramatic. No fanfare, just a short notice to thousands of astronomers that says what was seen, how it was seen, who else saw it, and how to check it yourself. Coordinates, times, receivers, caveats. The kind of message that lets grown-ups trace the steps without guessing. In Berkeley, the lab watches the little green sent icon and does nothing else for a full minute. Let the record lead. Let the system work. Phones begin to ring anyway. Parks reports that their night operator has pinned the source for a longer stare. Meerkat sends a calm. Still there on target? Still not there off target. A small observatory in Spain replies with a polite request for the reproduction kit. Then 15 minutes later, adds a simple, "We confirm the modulation." At the United Nations, a staffer in a gray hallway reads the circular on a phone and walks it down the hall. This is not a crisis, it's a notice. Still, the Secretary General will want a sentence prepared in case microphones appear. The sentence they practice is plain. Probable artificial signal detected by multiple sites. No threat indicated. Data shared for independent review. We will coordinate scientific communication. Back in the United States, a short call lands at NASA Public Affairs, another at NSF, one at the Office of Science and Technology Policy. The script is the same. Support the process. Do not overclaim. Point to the eye on your note. Point to the data mirrors. Remind everyone that independent checks are ongoing. Then the first curveball arrives, right on schedule. In Beijing evening, China's FAST team publishes a brief statement of its own. Their instrument has also seen an unusual narrowband signal near the hydrogen line with a pattern consistent with primes. No natural or local source identified so far. The statement is careful. It also makes headlines. Within an hour, the UN moves up its small press point from tomorrow to tonight. Not a podium with flags, just a spokesperson at a desk. The tone is gentle. This is a scientific development. There is no emergency. The world will hear updates as facts, not as rumors. Meanwhile, Step 4 has a second half that matters just as much as the circular. Make the material easy to reach. The SETI working group posts a simple page. Raw files, checksums, the exact code used to make the basic plots, a one-page How We Listened guide. 3 mirrors on 3 continents, no paywalls, no logins that will crash. For about 10 minutes, a university server does crash. Then the mirrors take the load, and everything breathes again. The space mailroom, it turns out, knows how to handle a rush. Maya's inbox fills with the best kind of noise. Small observatories asking good questions. A radio amateur in New Zealand sending a thoughtful note about local interference patterns. A professor in Italy offering a cross-check on Doppler drift using their own pipeline. A graduate student in Canada pointing out a tiny clock offset on a shared plot and sending a fix with a smiley face. Internet, as it should be. Now a quiet word about why step 4 is written the way it is. When the world first hears about a candidate signal, you don't want a rumor with a dramatic soundtrack. You want a boring, complete packet that any careful person can test. You want officials who speak in short sentences. You want data that lives in more than one place. That's how you keep trust. That is how you let thousands of eyes look for the thing everyone fears most in science. A simple mistake. Even with all that, human beings will still react like human beings. On social media, the first wave is jokes. The second wave is curiosity. The third wave is edits of movie posters. Somewhere, a DJ announces an all-night prime numbers only set. Someone else designs a shirt that says, "Hello from 1420 megahertz. Maya laughs. Then she turns the phone face down and keeps working. At local churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples, leaders draft short, steady notes to their communities. Most say the same thing in different words. Wonder is not a threat. Be kind. Wait for facts. At a small newsroom in Ohio, a producer asks if the Chiron should say, "First contact." The editor shakes his head. We are not there yet. Tonight we say, probable artificial radio signal. Tomorrow we see if it still holds. In the lab, Dr. Hayes has one task left for step 4. He records a 2-minute video that will run on the lab site and nowhere else. No music, no animation, just a person at a desk who looks like he's read every page and slept very little. He says calmly what the circular says. We have detected something unusual. Others have too. We have posted our raw data and our methods. We invite you to check us. There is no sign of danger. There is every sign that this is a job for patience. He thanks the engineers who keep the dishes alive in the wind. He thanks the archivists who keep the past from falling through the cracks. He thanks the public for their curiosity. He doesn't promise answers. He promises updates. When he finishes, Maya adds captions and hits publish. Then she writes 3 words on the whiteboard. Open, clear, kind. Outside, Berkeley is gold and then dark. Inside, the fans are a soft ocean. Somewhere in New York, a UN spokesperson finishes a last cup of tea and goes to the small room with the lights. Somewhere in China, a night operator watches a thin line on a screen lean and breathe with the sky. Step 4 is complete. The world has been told, not alarmed. The data has been shared, not hoarded. The stage is set. Midnight in California. Dawn in Europe. Servers hum like distant rain. The lab posts everything it can safely post. Raw recordings, cleaned versions, timestamps, beam shapes, the tiny scripts that made the first plots. Checksums for each file so anyone, anywhere, can confirm nothing changed in the download. 3 mirrors go live, then 6. Then a quiet 7th on a museum website because their IT guy is fast and kind. An archive in Canada volunteers cold storage. A university in Ghana adds bandwidth. Someone in Finland sets up a torrent for the public dataset because their campus link is a rocket. Maya adds one more page called How to Follow Along, plain words. Short steps, no jargon if she can help it. There is a beginner path with screenshots. There is an advanced path with the math. There is even a tiny audio clip because not everyone reads plots, but everyone hears rhythm. Around the world, people lean in. A small team in Bologna reruns the pipeline and gets the same thin forest of peaks. A group in Cape Town tries different filters and still finds the prime number heartbeat. Parks uploads a short note, independent confirmation consistent with prior reports. It feels like a roll call at dawn. Ham radio forums light up. They cannot listen at 1420 megahertz with backyard gear, but they can analyze. A retiree in New Zealand finds a tiny clock drift in one of the auxiliary channels and posts a fix before breakfast. A high school class in Minnesota builds a simple viewer and writes, "We can see the pattern." Their teacher cries a little at her desk and blames the air. In Bangalore, a grad student wraps the analysis in a container so it runs the same on any laptop. In Lagos, 2 undergrads translate the quick start into Yoruba overnight. In Osaka, someone measures polarization hints and says, "It's faint, but it's there." In Warsaw, a museum opens its lobby late and lets visitors watch the waterfall plot crawl in real time. A kid presses their face to the glass and whispers, "It's counting." Not everything is tidy. A popular video claims it is a hoax. Wrong frequency. Wrong math. Wrong lab. The comments go loud, then louder. The lab does not clap back. It posts a calm, numbered note. Where the data came from, how to check it, who has reproduced it. No drama. Only receipts. The video quietly edits its description the next day. A deep fake starts to circulate that pretends to decode a hidden greeting. It sounds like a GPS voice giving coordinates to a secret base. It racks up views. A volunteer fact-checker group releases a side-by-side. Real spectrum in one ear, fake audio in the other. They show how compression artifacts gave the trick away. The comments cool. The views fade. The lesson stays. Meanwhile, archivists do the slow, heroic work no one notices: tagging files, duplicating drives, writing the kind of labels that make sense to strangers 5 years from now. Open science is not just a link. It is a promise to your future self. Someone wheels in a cart loaded with LTO tapes and a label maker older than the interns. A sticky note reads, for 2035 you. Maya and the team publish a short, careful preprint. It says what the signal is. It says what the signal is not. It lists every known source of interference and how each one was ruled out. It thanks the telescope operators by name. It has a section called Things We Might Be Missing. People trust that part most. Email arrives in gentle avalanches. Here is our reanalysis. Here is our null result. Here is our code. Here is our bug. Here is our fix. The space mailroom is busy. A blind programmer in Chicago drops a plugin that sonifies the spectrum and lets you scrub through the data like a piano. They catch a clock glitch faster than most of the sighted crowd. A composer in Lisbon turns the clean signal into a lullaby and posts it under a permissive license. It plays softly in labs at 2 a.m. In the press room, they keep a rhythm. One briefing a day, same hour, short and boring on purpose. No surprises. No adjectives that outrun the facts. Reporters come to appreciate the boredom. Boredom means nothing is on fire. They how to follow along. Page grows a sibling called How We Could Be Wrong. It lists artifacts with humble names: side lobes, intermods, satellite glint, bad cables, bored raccoon. If one appears in the wild, there is a short recipe to check. People run the recipes like kitchen tests and post their results. Most of science is this: quiet, patient, repeatable. On a quiet slack with too many time zones, a cross comparison keeps going. Somebody tests Doppler drift against Earth's rotation and gets a clean match. Somebody else measures how the signal fades when the dish moves a hair off target off, on like a lighthouse behind fog. A student in Japan tries an entirely different approach and still lands on the same primes, different roads, same hill. A museum educator in Mexico City records a 2-minute explain it like I'm 5 clip. It says, imagine someone far away shining a flashlight through mist. We see the blink, not the person. Step 5 is us passing around the blink so everyone can check the timing. It becomes the most watched thing the museum has ever posted. Through it all, the tone stays gentle. There are jokes, yes. One person designs a sticker that says, I verified the primes, and all I got was this plot. Someone else offers a looping lo-fi track made from the cleaned audio. It is weirdly lovely. Maya saves it for later. A small ethics group meets on video with their cameras off because they are exhausted. They talk about credit and care. They add a paragraph to the preprint urging anyone who builds fame off the dataset to also build mentorship, especially for students far from the big dishes. Open is not enough if it is not kind. By morning, Step 5 feels less like a release and more like a festival of patience. No cheering, no confetti. Just people doing careful work at kitchen tables and lab benches, all walking the same slow path. Why Step 5 matters in one breath. Because trust is built when anyone with the skills and the time can check your work. Because a discovery this large should not belong to a single lab, or a single country, or a single headline. Because errors hide from small teams, and flee from big crowds. Because openness turns a fragile claim into a shared effort. Because 10 years from now, a student will need this dataset for a brand new test no one has invented yet. Because history is kinder to receipts. Take a slow inhale with me. Hold for 2 beats. Let it out. There is one last practical note on the whiteboard. With the world now listening, the radio sky is about to get crowded. If we want to keep hearing the whisper, we need to keep the channel clean. That means asking governments to reserve the quiet bands. That means reminding satellites to mind their lanes. That means patient work with regulators who do not speak waterfall, but do speak, please keep the noise down. Night settles over Pasadena. Cables rest. Coffee cools. The whisper is still there. Maya circles 3 words on the whiteboard. Protect, reserve, coordinate. If a whole planet wants to listen, she says, we have to keep the room quiet. Here's what that means in plain steps. First, tell the referees of radio. Every country has them. In the US, the FCC. In the UK, Ofcom. In Europe, national spectrum agencies. Above them all, a big, slow, careful body in Geneva called the International Telecommunication Union. The ITU is where the world agrees which frequencies are for phones, planes, weather satellites, and which must stay quiet for science. Maya writes a short letter that is not short at all. It lists the exact frequency where the signal lives, how wide it is, when it shows up, why the 1420 megahertz hydrogen line is sacred to astronomers. She attaches plots. She attaches a 1-page explain it to my boss summary because that helps. By sunrise, regulators answer with calm voices and long subject lines. Temporary protections are granted. No new transmitters near that band. No satellite tests close to that lane. Existing services asked to stay polite and keep their side of the road. Think of it like this. You and a friend are whispering in a library. A marching band walks in. Step 6 is a librarian holding up a hand and saying, "March outside, please." Across the map, radio quiet zones go on high alert. Green Bank in West Virginia, Murchison in the Australian outback, the Karoo in South Africa, places built far from busy airwaves, where even a car's spark plug can sound like thunder. Local teams check fences and signs. No drones, no Bluetooth speakers. No, my toaster has Wi-Fi experiments near the dish. A weather balloon over the desert happens to ping right through the protected band. For 10 minutes, the plots fuzz. No panic. The ops room logs the time and the ID. The balloon company gets a friendly call. They move tomorrow's test 10 megahertz away. Everyone breathes again. Satellites are trickier. Their footprints are huge. A single mistuned downlink can paint lines across half a continent. So a small group from the lab jumps on a call with 3 satellite operators and 1 sleepy lawyer who keeps saying, "Appreciate the urgency." They pull up sky maps and timing charts. They find the overlaps. Fixes are simple, but they must be agreed and filed. Paperwork flies. Orbit keeps turning. Meanwhile, politicians hear the word alien and want a headline. Maya asks them for something boring instead. Please fund more spectrum monitors. Please fast-track radio quiet rules around dishes. Please remind agencies to talk to each other before a new transmitter goes live. Boring saves signals. The lab's public page adds a new box called How to Be a Good Neighbor to Radio Astronomy. It says, if you live near a radio telescope, turn off unshielded gear during scheduled listening hours. If you are a maker, build with clean power supplies. Cheap ones spit noise. If you fly drones, avoid marked radio quiet zones. If you run a satellite project, check coordination lists before tests. If you are media, do not tell people to point transmitters at the sky to say hello. Please no. There is a tiny cartoon of a librarian shushing a satellite. It makes people smile. It also works. Ham radio clubs pitch in. They run local RFI hunts, walking neighborhoods with small antennas to find noisy power bricks and leaky LED lights. They leave kind notes on doors. Hi, your porch lamp is yelling at space. Here is a $5 filter. A tech company mails the lab to say they found a bug in a home router that sprays across the band when it reboots. They push a firmware fix in a week. Thousands of tiny fireflies go dark. The plots get cleaner. In class, kids learn a new phrase, radio hygiene. It is like hand washing, but for the sky. Not every call is easy. A private ground station in a remote valley says they have permits and a deadline. They do. They also have a heart. They agree to shift their test windows by 2 hours. The signal is faint. Courtesy is loud. Why does step 6 matter so much? Because the first sign of another mind may be a whisper under our own noise. Because once hype fades, what remains is stewardship. Because laws move slowly, but interference arrives fast. Because sharing a sky is culture, not just code. Because future listeners deserve the same quiet you have now. Maya draws a square on the board and writes, protected time. It is a daily 2-hour window when the biggest dishes all over Earth point together, and the world, as best it can, lowers its voice. Air traffic stays the same. Cities hum. Life goes on. But in those hours, the bands around the signal are treated like a national park. Look, do not trample. A small town near one dish decides to make it a tradition. They dim lights on Main Street during protected time. Coffee shops put out quiet hour signs. A bar plays the sonified signal like soft rain. People listen and think about distance. Someone proposes. Someone else forgives. It is a good night for being small under a big sky. There is humor, too. A sticker appears. Be nice. Aliens might be grading us. A t-shirt reads, Save the Primes. The lab groans and buys too. Late one evening, Even stands outside the building with his hands in his jacket and his head tilted back. The sky over the city is a smudge, but he imagines the dishes in their quiet places, breathing in. He thinks about how many tiny choices it takes to keep a single channel clean. How many strangers have to care. Inside, The whisper is still there. Stronger now because we made room for it. Take a slow breath with me. In, hold, out. Step 6 is not drama. It is discipline. It is us proving we can act like adults before we try to talk like neighbors. Tomorrow, the work turns inward. If the channel is protected and the data is flowing, the next question is the hardest and the most human. How do we read the message, if there is one? Dawn in Pasadena. A gray sky. A quiet lab. Monitors glow like small moons. Maya unlocks a room with no windows and a soft rug. On the door, a handwritten sign. Message working group. Shoes optional. Hype stays outside. Evan, Dr. Saito, 2 radio engineers, 1 cryptographer who loves tea, and a linguist who collects star maps take seats. No speeches. Just the work. Breathe in, breathe out. We listen first. Step 7 is simple to say and hard to do. Turn a faint radio tone into meaning without fooling yourself. Here is how they begin. Sync the clock. Everything starts with time. They correct the data for Earth's spin, for Earth's orbit, for the slow, steady drift that space gives to any signal. They park the whisper at a fixed spot so it stops sliding across the screen. It is like holding a violin string still so you can hear the note. Drop the carrier. The signal sits near the hydrogen line, a smart place to meet. They strip away the steady tone to reach the part that changes, the part that might carry bits. Try the usual keys. Does it blink in amplitude? Does it hop in frequency? Does it twist in phase? The plots answer in their slow way. A narrow shape widens, then narrows again. Frequency shift keying. 2 lanes. Maybe more. The room leans closer. Now they hunt for rhythm. Every language has a pulse. 0s and 1s do too. They run a sweep through candidates' symbol rates. Tick, tick, tick. At one setting, the error bars fall. Lock, bitstream. No one cheers. They just sit a little straighter. The cryptographer whispers. If someone wanted strangers to read them across light years, they would give us handles. So the team looks for handles. A preamble that repeats. A short pattern that says frames start here. They find one. It is prime in length. Good sign. Inside each frame, something like parity. Redundancy to catch mistakes. Forward error correction. Not fancy, not wasteful, kind. They flip bits. They are not sure about a dozen different ways and watch the error rate change. When it drops and stays low, they freeze that version and write it on the board. Breathe in, breathe out. No rush. The linguist speaks next. Meaning might not be words. It might be pictures. It might be math. It might be a map. The safest first try is an image. 2-dimensional. Let the data decide the shape. So they take one clean frame. They count its length. They factor it. The factors are tidy. They try laying the bits into a rectangle with those sides. At first, it looks like snow. Then someone flips black and white. A line appears. Then a circle. Then a grid. No one says the word face. No one is allowed to. They are trained against wishful eyes. They test the image 3 ways, with a different demodulator, with a different filter, with a different team that does not know the first team's choices. The same shapes appear, plain, geometric. Not art, structure. Open science, closed microphone. They post a scrubbed dataset and the code to read it. They write down every choice they made, every knob they turned, every assumption they tried, and where it broke. 3 labs on 3 continents reproduce the plot. Only then does Maya allow the lab to say, "We are likely seeing frames, and some frames look like images." The room takes a break. Tea. A walk around the block. Back to chairs. Now comes the long middle. Weeks of pattern work. Checks and rechecks. No press leaks. No movie lines. Just patient decoding. They catalog the frame types. Some are short. Some are long. A few have nothing but a repeating barcode at the top, like a header you would use to calibrate a scanner. The cryptographer smiles. Calibration is a gift. They use those header frames to tune thresholds, to align timing, to correct for tiny warps in the dish electronics. The bit error rate falls again. The images sharpen. Still simple. Still safe. The linguist builds a starter dictionary the way you would with a new board game. You look at the pieces on the table. You ask what each could be. Numbers, the easiest. They find the primes again. They find small composites. They find blocks that look like counts written in different bases. They mark them in blue. Constants, ratios near pi, ratios near e. A frequency to time ratio that screams hydrogen. They mark them in green. Units. A scale bar appears next to a circle. If the circle is a star, the bar might be a wavelength. If the bar is a wavelength, the star's color tells you its type. They mark S's in pencil, not pen, maps. If there is a map, it will not be Mercator. It will be a network. Angles, pulsars, bright things that blink at known rates. A timeless lighthouse set. Evan writes, then erases, then writes again. Do not claim a map until the second proof. While the inner circle works, the outer circle guards against human fall. Pareidolia, bias, groupthink. They bring in 3 fresh readers and give them frames with no labels. 2 out of 3 see the same geometry. Good. The 3rd sees a fish. They change the contrast, and the fish goes away. Someone asks the hard question out loud. What if a frame contains instructions we should not publish? A power system. A weapon. Something that gives a loud mind to a small group. Maya has an answer ready. We treat content like we treat pathogens. We look. We document. We share with peer groups under review. We do not post obvious how-to. We also do not assume malice. Most likely, this is a postcard, not a manual. This is where Step 7 meets ethics. Open by default. Patient by design. Responsible at the edges. The public needs something too. Something true and gentle. So the lab streams sonified data for 1 hour each night. Not the bits, not the frames. Just the raw whisper shifted into human hearing. It sounds like a soft tide. People fall asleep to it. That is the point. Back in the room, meaning grows one brick at a time. They find a frame that is only numbers, laid out as a table. Row headers match the constants they already tagged. Column headers match common base units. The table looks like a conversion chart, a Rosetta for physics. They find another frame that changes slowly night over night, while the rest stay the same. A clock, maybe, or a calendar. If it resets every 24 hours, that is Earth's day. If it resets at a different interval, that is theirs. It resets just a hair longer than ours. Someone whispers, 2 suns. Someone else writes, or a long planet they. They do not guess past the data. The linguist draws 2 circles on the board. Whatever the story is, it will be told with shared anchors. Hydrogen, math, pulsars. Physics we both can own. The rest is culture, and culture is the deep end. 2 months in, the team meets in the dark with the projector low. They play a sequence of cleaned frames at 1 per second. Grid, scale bar, circle with rings. A cluster diagram with angle marks. A small block of numbers that rises then falls in a curve that looks exactly like a distribution you learn in freshman stats. Noise model, Dr. Sato says. Or population, the linguist says. Or temperature. No one pretends to know yet. Maya keeps the pace slow. Say what you see, not what you feel. Not what you want. They build an internal report. They send it to the same circle that confirmed the signal in the first place. Independent labs push back. One says the phase decoder could be biasing edges. The team reruns everything with a different phase unwrap. A few pixels shift. The shapes stay. Evan sleeps on the couch twice that week. He wakes to the hum of the racks and the soft tone of the hydrogen line piped low in the room. He thinks of 1,000 people he will never meet who wrote code or bolted metal or signed a purchase order for a clean power supply. He thanks them all without saying it. Why does step 7 take so long? Because it is easy to fool yourself. Because it is easy to chase ghosts. Because a whole world is looking, and you only get one first read, so the rules hold. Multiple teams, multiple methods. Publish the tools, admit the gaps. Never claim more than the data can carry. Leave room for tomorrow, and keep it human. Maya ends every long day the same way. She turns the speakers up for 1 minute and lets the whisper fill the room. She reminds everyone that there is a mind on the other end of this patience. Maybe close, maybe far, but a mind that chose to send. Take a breath with me. In, hold, out. Step 7 builds the bridge, stone by stone, no shortcuts. When that bridge is steady enough to walk, a new question waits on the other side. Do we answer? Who speaks? What do we say? When do we say it? And who gets to decide? Morning over 2 coasts. In New York, the UN building wakes. In Pasadena, the lab hums. In West Virginia and China and South Africa, big dishes sit like quiet whales in grass seas. Maya drinks tea from a paper cup that keeps folding at the rim. Evan checks the same 3 graphs he has checked every day for weeks. Dr. Sato straightens a stack of notes that will never be read aloud. Step 7 gave us a bridge. Step 8 asks if we cross it. Who speaks for Earth? What do we say? When do we say it? How do we say it in a way that is careful, honest, and fair? Keep your breath slow. We will walk it gently. First, the room. A joint session spread across screens. UN Office for Outer Space Affairs. Astronomy Unions. SETI folks. Engineers who love error bars. Ethicists who love pauses. A few lawmakers who love microphones. Maya goes first. She keeps it plain. The signal is stable. We can decode frames with independent teams and independent tools. We have images that look like calibration and tables that look like constants. We have not found instructions. We have not found threats. We do not know the distance yet. We do know the senders know our year length. No drama, no music sting, just facts you can stack. Then come the positions. Position 1, answer now. A simple reply proves we are real readers. It opens a channel. Polite civilizations say hello. Position 2, wait, keep listening. Decode more. Build a fuller map. Do not rush a first sentence you cannot take back. Position 3, do not answer at all. Listening is safe. Transmitting is not. Why raise your hand in a dark room? The room breathes. A small moment of humor slips in from an astronomer with gray hair and kinder eyes. No emojis in the first message, he says. No pizza orders either. The room laughs. Tension drops by 1 notch. Now the guidelines. They sound like common sense because they were built that way. No one nation speaks for everyone. Any reply must be public before it goes out. The raw data and the encoding must be open. No secrets. No encryption that locks people out. No claims that stretch beyond the data. No how-to for dangerous things. Lean on math, physics, and shared anchors. Do not send anything you would be upset to see on a billboard. A student delegate stands and asks the question that will sit in your chest all day. If they can count primes at the hydrogen line, they probably already know where we are. Are we really hiding by staying quiet? Maya answers the way good leaders do. With respect and with limits, silence is still a choice. It says we heard you and we are not ready. A small reply says we heard you. We are careful and we want to coordinate the pace. A compromise forms like frost on glass, not a speech, not a poem, not a data dump, a minimum message. Short, reproducible, reviewed. More handshake than essay. They draft it on a whiteboard that squeaks. Part 1. Acknowledgement. A brief preamble at the hydrogen line. Prime counts in the same style they used to show we hold the same key. A checksum so they can tell if they read us clean. Part 2. Time in units. Define a second in terms of the hydrogen transition. Define length using the same. No miles, no feet, no arguments. Part 3. A tiny codebook. A clean black and white frame that maps bit to pixel. A scale bar, a simple grid. The kind of "here is how to read us" that any engineer would love. Part 4. Identity, but light. Not our address down to the front door. Anchor to pulsars the way they did. A course marker of our star type and our planet's orbit. Enough to say, we are the blue one by the yellow G-star, without drawing directions to every kitchen. Part 5. A question. Not 10 questions. 1. Do you consent to steady exchange? If yes, at what cadence should we trade frames? That last line is the most human thing in the room. Consent. Pace. A relationship set by both sides. The ethics panel adds 2 rails. No single voice in the audio mix. Synthesis only. Calm, neutral. Do not make one person the sound of Earth. No claims of authority. We do not sign as the human race. We sign as a coalition of observatories and institutions acting in public trust, pending future global process. You can hear keyboards in 3 languages agreeing on the wording. Now the how. Power matters. You want to be heard, not to glare. They choose to send from multiple dishes at once. Green Bank, Goldstone, Meerkat in being formed mode if the schedule allows. Partner dishes in Europe and Asia if time zones line up. Send at the hydrogen line with narrow, clean tones in the same modulation they used. Make it easy for them to lock. Schedule 3 windows across 1 week to account for their unknown sky. Publish the exact times, frequencies, and content ahead of time for the whole world to watch. There is a small debate about including a picture of a human face. The linguist shakes her head. Do not lead with faces. Lead with calibration. Lead with math. Let trust grow before culture. They agree. A grid is kinder than a grin. Someone asks about the law. Who signs the form that says go? The answer is boring by design. The UN notes the plan and takes no vote. The scientific unions endorse the content and the process. National agencies approve the use of their transmitters. Everything is archived in public repositories. Everyone owns the decision. No one person can pull the plug without saying so aloud. Before lunch, a teacher from Nairobi speaks into the mic. She teaches 10-year-olds who have been drawing the whisper at the chalkboard every morning like a ritual. Please, if you answer, keep it kind. My class will read it with you. That is the line that settles the room. Keep it kind. Keep it true. Keep it small. Back in Pasadena, evening pours in like blue ink. Evan and the radio team run last checks. Clock sync, noise floor, power meters that behave, a little sticker on the rack that says breathe. At the second agreed window, the control rooms connect. A simple countdown shared on a public stream so anyone can follow along. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Transmit. Prime counts like rain on a tin roof. The little header frame that matches theirs. The codebook square. The scale bar. The calm question at the end, turned into bits with more care than a wedding vow. The whole thing fits inside a coffee break. Polite, precise, done. They send it 3 times in that window. Then they stop. They log the time. They post the packet online. They walk outside and stare at a sky that offers no clue at all. Now comes the hardest part for a species that loves instant replies. Waiting. Maybe they are close, and the round trip is weeks. Maybe they are 50 light years away, and your kids will be old when the doorbell rings. Maybe they are gone, and the message is a bottle from a shore that does not exist anymore. Maybe the only answer we ever get is the one we sent to ourselves about who we are when we speak carefully. So what happens next? Life happens next. The whisper keeps playing each night for an hour, sonified and soft. People make tea. They argue gently in comments about what we should ask second. They tell you the time in their city because you asked. The world keeps going to work on Monday. Maya leaves the lab and buys 2 loaves of bread. One for her, one for the neighbor who feeds her cat when the shift runs long. Evan sends a photo of the control room to his sister, who still thinks he repairs printers. Dr. Sato folds his notes exactly in half and puts them in a folder labeled Patience. When you zoom out, the 8 steps are not about aliens. They are about us, about building a culture that can stay calm, share work, admit doubt, and still act with grace. If you are already drifting, let this last part be a soft place to land. We listened, we checked, we shared, we read. We answered once with care. Before you drift off, let's set the science straight, gently. What we walked through tonight is real practice, not fantasy. Scientists do have a playbook for a first signal. People often call it the post-detection protocol. It exists because false alarms happen. Radio noise can trick us. Cables fail. Software glitches. Excitement makes smart people jump too fast. The protocol slows us down just enough to be right. It asks us to verify first, more than one telescope, more than one team, independent checks. It asks us to share fast, tell the public what was found, explain how it was found, put the raw data where anyone can download it. It asks us to save everything, the raw bits, the timestamps, the settings on the equipment, so others can repeat the test. It asks us to coordinate, use open channels, move together, let evidence lead, not headlines. It also asks us to be careful about replying. No single lab should speak for Earth, no single company or country either. If we ever answer, that choice should be broad, public, and transparent. Who wrote this kind of guidance? Researchers who work in SETI. The International Academy of Astronautics has a SETI committee that shaped today's norms. The United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs is aware of the work. These are not police rules. They are professional standards that scientists choose to follow. They keep the process calm and clean. What is the spirit of the protocol? Verify, disclose, preserve, coordinate, consult, protect key radio bands while the work continues, and stay humble about what the data really says. 2 extra tools help communication. First, a simple confidence scale. You can think of it like a Richter scale for signals. It tells people how strong the evidence is today, not how excited we feel. Second, a plain language rule. Start with math and timing. Share culture later. Clarity first. When you zoom out, the protocol is a mirror. It shows the kind of species we want to be. Careful, open, patient, willing to double-check even when the news is huge. See you, Space Cowboy. Sleep well.